y'all, it's Savannah and this is Savannah Says. I'm here to talk about a book that I literally just finished reading like an hour or two ago, and it's called It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And I know, why am I always on here talking about contemporary romance? Because I clearly do not like contemporary romance, but I just continue to read them. And then every week I find myself reading one and asking myself, why am I reading this? And so obviously this is a contemporary romance, and it is about a woman named Piper and a man named Brendan who's like a fisherman, and it's supposed to be like a grumpy sunshine trope, which I guess means that one of the people in the relationship is grumpy and the other one is not. I guess that's a thing. So this book is about this girl named Piper, and she's like a socialite, like a Paris Hilton type. Apparently she is supposed to be modeled after Alexis Rose from Schitt's Creek. I'm not getting that vision, but if you got that vision, I'm happy for you. I was getting Paris Hilton. She's this socialite from LA, and one day her boyfriend of 3 weeks breaks up with her, and she throws like this rager party, and her stepdad, who is I guess he's a director, filmmaker, I don't know if he's a producer or what, but he makes films. The people who are financing his next film own this building that she trashed for her party. And so he basically is like, look, I'm sending you to the small town where you're from, because rewind, her and her mom and her sister are from this small town called like Westfall or something, West Haven, and it's like a fisherman's town, small town. And when they're like little children, like I think her sister is like 2 and Piper is like 4, their dad dies because he's a fisherman. He dies at sea, and so their mom leaves and ends up in LA and meets this man who she marries, who's now her stepfather. And so the mom never talks about the dad's history because I guess it was too painful for her or whatever. She never brings it up. And so they send her back to this small town, I guess, so she can learn something and become a better person, learn the value of hard work, etc., etc. It sounds like a plot of a movie whose title I'm forgetting, but if I think of it, I will put a picture up. My first issue, because of course I'm gonna have issues with this, before we even start the small town segment, is that like Piper is 28. And so I'm sitting here thinking like, y'all are treating her like she's 21 or like 20. Like saying she's a spoiled brat, she has no concept of like how life works, she has no motivation. I'm like, at what point do you stop being a spoiled brat and you just start being a useless adult? Why is she having to be punished for being a stupid adult? Like, just cut her off. Why does she have to learn a lesson? Why does she have to go to the small town, learn the value of hard work, learn the value of like what she's been given, like be able to count her blessings? Like, just cut her off. Throw her out of your house. Like, she's a whole adult. She's literally 28. I'm not really sure why like they're putting up with that. Also, she refers to her stepfather as Daniel, but he literally married her mom when she was 4. He's basically her dad. Like, she never had a dad because her dad died. So why does she refer to him as her stepfather, and she literally calls him by his first name? But he raised her. Was she calling him Daniel as a toddler? I don't get it. It's weird. This is what I'm saying. It's weird. Like the foundations of what this book is supposed to be building on is fucking weird. Like, she's an adult who acts like a child, gets treated like a child, but instead of just treating her like a useless, stupid adult, they treat her like a little kid. They send her off to learn a lesson. Her stepdad, who's literally bankrolling her life because he's quite literally her father, he adopted her as a child. Her last name is his last name. Okay, strike one. She ends up in this town, and her father owned this bar, and I guess it was in his will that his daughters would get the bar, even though it's literally never been mentioned until this moment in her life. She shows up at this bar, and obviously the locals are drinking here, and one of the locals is named Brendan, and he's like this 6'5" buff, got a beard, brown hair, fisherman who's like the captain of this boat. They go crabbing, they make a shit ton of money. And so he's at this bar, and she's like, yeah, I own it, lol. He's immediately like off-put by her, which, okay, that's valid. She's showing up in this small town being like, I own this bar, happy to meet y'all. This book wants you to believe that it's like enemies to lovers, like grumpy sunshine, and that like he hates her and all of this, but like literally the next day he's helping her. What? That night she's staying above, there's like an apartment above this bar. She's staying there. It's like disgusting because no one lives there. Obviously her and her sister are like trying to clean out this place. And like the next day she goes to the grocery store to try to figure out how to like cook a meal, which obviously I guess she can't do. And he's also at the grocery store, and he like helps her, and he's nice to her, and he like in his mind he's like, oh, I shouldn't judge her, like people judge me, whatever. So I'm like, is this really enemies to lovers? Is it just lovers to lovers? Like he likes her, right? He's not in love with her at the beginning of the book, but he definitely is not off-put by her. Like, the book wants you to believe that like Piper is some like terrible human being. She's not a nice person. She's really superficial, and like she is superficial, but she's also very nice. Like, again, the moment she gets there, like the timeline for this book is real fast. By the end of the first week, everybody fucking likes her. Why? it's being compared to like Schitt's Creek or literally anything else like that. Like in Schitt's Creek, Alexis is not likable for a good part of it. I didn't really like Alexis. I thought David was a better sibling, but I digress. Brendan and Piper end up like sort of flirting with each other, but he has this wedding ring on, and come to find out his wife died 7 years ago, and so he's just a guy who like is set in his routines, he's set in his ways, and he feels obligated to like, I guess, pay tribute to his wife by keeping the ring on because he was out at sea when she died, and he never really was like into her. Like his father-in-law is still alive and lives in this town, and the father-in-law wanted them to be together, and they kind of liked each other, but they never like were in love, so they got married just to appease the father, and then thought they could make a life together, but she dies. So he's got this wedding ring on, so Piper's kind of like, I can't really get close to this guy because he's married, and then it's revealed that he's literally not married, his wife is dead, and so they start flirting again. And like, again, the timeline of this book is really quick because Piper gets sent to this town for 3 months, and it's like the end of the first week, and they're already going on a date because Brendan is going out to sea on a crabbing trip for like 2 weeks. That's like the first trip of the season or whatever. So the end of the first week, they're already on a date. He's already like calling her baby and all this other stuff. I can't wait to see when I get back. So they get back and they just start a relationship. Like, she's clearly into him. She's like at his house crying that he's gone. Like, yeah, she's got a key to his house. They're like making out all over the place. They're like fucking at the hospital. It's a lot. Like, it's very much not enemies to lovers. Like, they pretty much just always love each other from the beginning. Like, he comes back from this trip and like there was an accident, and so she's crying thinking that he was injured because her father died being on a boat, and so now she understands what her mom went through, I guess. And then he's okay, so then they fuck at the hospital because that's what you do when the love of your life is okay. You fuck him at the hospital, and it's just like, they just date. Like, this is literally a book about them dating, and it's not like it's not a bad thing. Like, reading a book about people dating, I suppose, is like, it's happy or whatever, but like, I was expecting some conflict, and I hate to say that I'm a person who likes reading conflict in my books, but like, if you know me at all, I read things that are heavy on the conflict. I don't want to read a book about y'all being happy in the first 50 pages, because then that means the whole book you're going to be happy, and in the last 30 pages they're going to do some bullshit to make me think that you guys are going to break up, when obviously you're not going to break up because you've been happy the whole story, which is what happens in this book. The whole story, they're happy. Like, Piper's LA life, she's pretty much forgotten about. She wants to be with Brendan wants to be with her. They basically live together. They're going on like overnight trips. He's buying her stuff, taking her shopping because he's loaded, because apparently he gets like over $100 per crab, and he's shucking 80,000 pounds of crab every time he goes crabbing. He's fucking loaded. He's not really that far removed from her LA lifestyle, and then like she realizes, oh, like, I don't need all this stuff to be happy. Like, I just want you, which is great, and I'm happy for her. But like, they start dating at the end of the first week. He goes away for 2 weeks, then they love each other. So it's really like, where's the grump? Y'all said he was a grumpy sunshine, but like, what about him is grumpy? Nothing about him is mean. Nothing about her is mean. He's just someone who is direct in what he says, and he doesn't really like beating around the bush when he has conversations, which I feel like is an admirable trait. The author writes every time he speaks that he grunts, he's grunting. The word grunt is used very liberally. It is sprinkled all in this book. He's grunting, they're grunting, he's grunting at her, he's grunting to himself, he's grunting to someone. People want you to think that he's fucking grumpy. He's really not grumpy. He's just someone who doesn't like to talk when he has nothing to say. That's what I got. He's not a talkative person. Piper is a talkative person, and it's not even that she's sunshine. She's just a positive person. And I guess like, yeah, positivity can be like sunshiny, but I don't know, she seemed normal to me. Like, she's just someone who's trying to figure herself out, and he's someone who's in love with her. He's like simping literally from the moment she walks through the door of the bar at the beginning of the book. So I'm not really getting like the angst that people are saying is here. Like, where is it at? It's not even worth me explaining the plot because there's virtually no plot. Like, they're just dating and they're just growing with each other, learning how to trust each other. That is the plot. So then in the last quarter of the book, one of her shitty LA friends like blowing up her phone being like, hey bitch, I'm having a party in your honor. You have to come back for the party. She doesn't want to go, obviously, because she's like, I want to stay here. Like, she wants to go, but she also doesn't want to go because she knows that like, if she doesn't go, she's committing herself to being here, and that's what she wants to do. But also at the same time, she wants to leave her options open, which why at this point, because it's been told over and over again that none of the people in LA are like real friends to her. She didn't have any friends. She felt like she was out of place, but they want you to believe that she's attached to this LA lifestyle. Brendan gets pissed off because she won't commit to like staying there with him, and she also won't commit to going to this party. So he's being a douchebag, which is the first moment where it's actually like, okay, he is being an asshole. I've been waiting for him to be an asshole the entire story, and he's finally being one in the last 10% of the fucking book, being a dick. And he goes off to sleep on his boat the day before his like 3-day fishing trip, because after the crabbing they go like every 3 days, like for 3 days every like 2 weeks they go on another fishing trip. So he's set for his first 3-day trip, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go sleep on the boat, you come see me tomorrow morning if you decide that you want to stay, and if you don't come, then I'm gonna just assume that you left. You're in LA, you're not coming back. She's like, well, I'll be there, obviously, like I'm in love with you, because at this point they are declaring that they're in love with each other and that they want to be together. So I'm not really sure why he thinks that she would not be with him. Of course, because we have to have random shit happening throughout this entire story. She's been like making connections with like the locals and stuff, and there's this one old man who serves zero purpose except for this moment, and every day she's been walking this man. I don't even know where they go, like to the park, to a park bench. Like he's old and he can't really walk. She's been walking with him every day as like part of her I'm becoming one with the community routine. And it's never had a point until this fucking moment when they're walking and he falls down and hits his head on the ground, which is a bad thing. That's tragic. But like he's bleeding on the ground, and she's like, damn, I gotta catch this boat. But she doesn't want to leave this old man like bleeding out on the fucking ground. So she calls his adult son, who is dropping off his kid at work. So she has to wait there with him. So of course she misses the fucking boat. And of course there's no signal in this town because it's a fish town. So she's texting Brendan, and none of the messages are going through. So she's crying at the dock because the boat's gone. And then she's having like this opening for the bar that she's been remodeling, which is how she's becoming one with the community. And at first the bar was supposed to be like if we remodel the bar, Daniel, aka Dad, will let us come home early. But then it turned into like a labor of love type of thing to make her feel connected to the town because she's from there, but she doesn't really like have roots there. So she's remodeling this bar, and of course the time period of this trip is when the bar is supposed to be like reopening, the grand reopening. Again, the boat is gone, Brendan's gone, doesn't have her text messages. She goes to this bar opening, no one fucking shows up. The father-in-law, Brendan's father-in-law, is being an asshole, basically saying like, you'll never replace my daughter, even though Brendan never loved the daughter. Okay, so again, pointless fucking conflict. While Brandon's on the boat, God, what is his name? His name is not Brandon, it's Brendan. His name is Brendan, not Brandon. Brendan's on the boat and he's like, damn, I really fucked up. Like I was an asshole, and I told her to trust me, and then she trusts me, and then I do this. Like that's not cool of me. So he's feeling upset. Then he's trying to rush back home to get to her. But of course, there's like a oil rig spill in the middle of the ocean, and I'm not even really sure where they're at because they're crabbing, right? So like they're close to LA but also close to Alaska, so I guess they're like in Washington state. Yes, I just read this, but I really don't know where they're at. I guess they're in the middle of the Arctic Ocean, Pacific. They're crabbing. There's an oil rig spill, so of course they can't get back on time, which means that like he's gonna be late for the party, and he's gonna be late to apologizing to Piper. But then her raggedy friend from LA has been texting her about this like comeback party, so she goes back to LA the same day because she's like, Brendan's not here, nobody's showing up to my bar party, everybody hates me, even though literally everyone has only liked her from the moment she got out of the taxi. But she ends up in LA. Brendan shows up at the bar, and her sister's like, yeah, she left, like nobody was here, you weren't here, everybody's got her fucked up, basically go get her. If you're in love with her, go get her. So he's like, yeah, I am in love with her. So again, where are they at? Because that same night he's in LA at this party coming to get her. When I say this out loud, I'm really just like, why did I read this? Like I so desperately want to like one of these fucking romance books. Like I want to like the contemporary romances because everybody reads them and everybody likes them, and I don't know what it is about it that I don't like. I guess I like drama. This wasn't really drama. They meet up, they're together, they fall in love, they've already been in love. She goes home with him. Actually, it doesn't even end with her going home with him. Like it ends with them like reconciling at the party and like going to the hotel room for the night. Then it's over. Yeah, I don't know. I gave this 3 stars, which, you know, I'm starting to realize 3 stars for me just means that, like, I've read worse. I don't know, like the sex scenes were like okay. I am realizing I'm also not someone who's like into dirty talk. Like I don't want to hear how I'm a bad girl and need to be punished. Like I'm not into that. Piper was into it, so that was kind of cringe. Like some of the sex scenes were okay, but it wasn't nearly enough of them to excuse like the boringness of the overall plot, right? I guess it was smutty. They had sex a couple times. They had nasty sex a couple times. Like yeah, I don't know, 3 stars. I've definitely read worse. I will never read this again. I will not read the second one because I literally don't care. There's like a second book about the sister and like Brandon's friend. Couldn't care less. It was a weird experience because I was reading it kind of not understanding why I was reading it, but like this isn't awful, so I'll keep reading it. Like apparently the bar is real low because as long as I don't want to pull my eyeballs out, I'll keep reading it to the end. I skimmed over some sections. I did. I don't care. It was like trying to be a slow burn, but why are you trying to be a slow burn when he's simping for her again the moment she gets out of the taxi? The first night she gets there, like he thinks she's hot, he's into her, like he doesn't want to admit that he's into her, but he's into her, and then he spends all of his time like trying to get with her, and she's the one taking the longest time to come around. So it's kind of like, is he grumpy? Is it enemies to lovers? They're never enemies. I need people to stop it like describing things as enemies to lovers when it's really just like mild dislike, or I don't know you, therefore I have no feelings towards you, and that being considered being enemies. Like enemies to lovers is like we're starting off hating each other, like we have history, I hate you, and like through that then we become lovers. And that is a true slow burn, but this book is not enemies to lovers, okay? It's not, and I wish people would understand what that trope means and stop like mislabeling things with that. Another thing that I didn't like, it felt like I was reading the back half of a romance book, if that makes sense. So like you get like Piper in LA, and then there's like this small little bit where she's traveling or when she arrives in Westfall or wherever they're at. And then like the whole back half of it is literally, it just seems like they've already overcome every obstacle, which is why I wasn't getting the enemies to lovers grumpy sunshine thing, because it's like there was the section of the story where like there is angst and like people are treating each other badly and people are misunderstanding each other before they get to know them, like didn't exist. It went straight from LA party girl to lovers. Like there was no middle bit, and it just felt weird because it's like there's no catalyst for them to want to be together, period. I don't know. It was just missing the conflict bits, and I think that this is what it's ultimately gonna come down to for me, is that there was just no conflict. Like it was boring. There's no conflict. 3 stars. I'm sure I'll be back on here talking about another contemporary romance that I've just read. It was mid. It was all right. And so yeah, tell me how you liked it. If you liked it, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.